With me now, the publisher of the Gloom Boom and Doom report, Marc Faber. Marc, great to speak with you.
Well, thank you for having me.
So there's a lot going on in the world, but first and foremost, do you agree with Wilbur Ross? And of course, the larger context is the fragility, the vulnerability of investing in Europe.
I completely disagree. I think
good.
Brexit would be the best that could happen to Britain and to Europe, because it would give the incentive of other countries to also leave the EU, which is a horrible and badly and anti-democratically run institution without any proper controls.
So, Marc, you don't think then that that would set off this kind of cascade of dominoes which would destabilize Europe and then destabilize the U.S. markets as well?
It would set up a cascade of positive dominoes for the whole world, because small countries function better than big countries. We've seen that with Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, and many others, including Hong Kong, Singapore. And the best that could happen to the UK would be to exit the EU.
But, Marc, when you look at Europe as a region, Germany is all but holding that whole system together, manufacturing strength, other strengths. You don't see that if the weaker players there, and I'm talking about Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, that they would suffer, not be able to survive without Germany propping them up.
I wonder how much more they would suffer by not being a member of the EU, having suffered so badly by being a member of the EU. So my sense is that the establishment, the elite, that benefits from the EU and the handouts that the EU provides, they don't want a Brexit or under no condition. They didn't want an exit of Greece, which would have been much better for Greece than keeping Greece in the EU. Okay. And so there is this anti-split sentiment of some people that want to keep the EU as it is at all costs.
So, Marc, what does this mean in the context of investing in the U.S.? You have said the U.S. stock market is in a bubble because Europe does look shaky to a lot of investors. China has begun to slow. So there are people who want to invest in the U.S., maybe not because the U.S. looks great, but because it looks safe. Yes,
it may look better, but that we have to look very closely at. First of all, the valuations in the U.S. are very high. If you measure price to sales of the S&P or the median PE of the S&P or the Schiller PE of the S&P, price to book and so forth and so on. And number two, my sense is that there are much better values overseas. Not all emerging economies can be thrown into the same basket. Some actually are improving and some are worsening, and in some the valuations are quite reasonable. So I'd say for the investor who has patience, now is a much better opportunity to invest in Europe and in emerging economies than, say, in the U.S. And as I mentioned on your program many times before, even in the U.S. there are some sectors that are very expensive and other sectors that are coming up now that look very attractive. I mean, gold miners.
Gold
and the precious metals, they bottomed out last fall, and many of these gold shares are up between 100 and 300% from the lows. Yeah. The energy sector has most likely bottomed out. I'm not saying they will all go up in a straight line, but these are sectors that for the longer-term investor are relatively attractive.
Well, you just gave us two good ideas. We're going to take them. Gold and energy. Marc, please come back soon.
And energy-related stocks, the oil servicing stocks, are also quite attractive.
All right. Gold, energy-related. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
We love having you with us.
Goodbye.
Marc Faber, publisher of the Gloom, Boom, and Doom report.